The phone rings at exactly 2:17 in the afternoon, and with it, my world splits in two, before and after, calm and chaos, life and loss. Vanessa, it's your mother. You need to come now. Uncle Robert's voice wavers in a way I've never heard before in all my years of knowing him. She's had a heart attack. They're working on her at St. Mary's. The words hit me like a blow to the chest. My fingers loosen, and the coffee mug slips from my hand, shattering on the kitchen tile. The dark liquid spreads quickly, snaking through the white grout like veins, like the ones on my mother's fragile hands. Tom, I call out, panic and urgency making my voice sharper than I intend. Tom, I need you. He appears in the doorway of his office, earbuds still in, irritation clear on his face. I'm in the middle of a call, he says flatly. My mother's had a heart attack. I repeat, my voice cracking. I need you to drive me to St. Mary's. He sighs, that dismissive, weary exhale I've heard far too many times over the last 23 years. I've got the Peterson merger meeting in half an hour. Can't you just call an Uber? For a moment, I stare at him, stunned into silence. The coffee continues to pool on the floor, an ugly stain spreading wider and wider, like the grief pressing against my chest. My mother could be dying, Tom, I say, my words cold and deliberate, each one like a shard of glass. And you're worried about a meeting? Don't be so dramatic, Vanessa, he replies, adjusting his earbuds like this is just another inconvenience. Your mother's always been healthy. I'm sure she'll be fine. Something inside me shatters alongside the mug on the floor. Maybe it's the last shred of patience I've been holding on to, or maybe it's the illusion I've clung to for too long. You know what? I say, my voice trembling. Forget it. I'll drive myself. Tom shrugs, already half turned back to his office. That's my girl. Always so independent. I grab my keys, ignoring the way my hands shake. The coffee remains there, untouched, a messy reminder of how quickly everything can fall apart. I don't care. Let it stain. Let it sit there like an unspoken truth I don't have the energy to clean up. The drive to St. Mary's passes in a blur. Red lights and honking horns flash and scream around me. But I don't process any of it. My phone buzzes on the passenger seat, calls from Aunt Margaret, Emily, Uncle Robert. I don't answer. I can't. My focus is singular. Get to my mother. I finally skid into the emergency parking lot, carelessly taking up 2 spaces. Let them tow it. Let the entire world unravel around me. None of it matters. My mother needs me, and I'm going to be there. The emergency room reeks of bleach, cold air, and something heavier. Fear, maybe, or grief. Uncle Robert stands near the intake desk, his polished appearance unusually frayed. His silver hair is disheveled, his suit wrinkled in a way that tells me he's been here for hours. Where is she? I ask, my voice a hoarse whisper. He turns and pulls me into a hug that feels like defeat. They're still working on her. Margaret's with them. They only let one person back. I pull away slightly, scanning the room. His eyes flick to the space behind me, searching for Tom. Tom, he asks, though he already knows the answer. Meeting, I mutter. The word tastes like bile. Uncle Robert's jaw clenches, the muscle twitching as he swallows down whatever he really wants to say. He's never liked Tom, though he's always been too dignified to voice it outright. Of course he is. The doors swing open, and a doctor steps into the waiting area. His surgical gloves are still on, stained with red, my mother's blood. The sight knocks the air from my lungs, and for a moment, the room tips sideways. Mrs. Mitchell, the doctor says softly. I nod, words lodge somewhere in my throat. He pauses, as though searching for the right way to say it. I'm sorry. We did everything we could. The words hit like ice water, and I feel Uncle Robert's arm tighten around me just as my knees buckle. The grief is immediate, a raw and consuming thing. Would you like to see her? The doctor asks gently. I shake my head, forcing the tears back. Not yet. I can't see her like that. I want to remember her alive, kneeling in her garden last Sunday. dirt on her hands as she told me about the rose bushes she'd planted, her voice soft but firm as she said I deserved better. Her words echo in my mind now, louder than before. It's not too late to start over. My phone buzzes, and Tom's face flashes on the screen. I don't answer. He's probably calling about dinner or some pointless frustration at work. A petty part of me wonders if he even remembers where I am. Emily's on her way, Uncle Robert murmurs, his voice thick with his own grief. Margaret called her at school. I nod silently, still staring at my phone as it falls silent again. Tom couldn't be bothered to drive me here, couldn't set his life aside for the woman who raised me. The realization settles like a stone in my chest, cold and final. Mom was right. The doors burst open, and Emily rushes in like a storm. Her hair is wild, her mascara smudged, and the frantic look in her eyes stops me cold. She looks so much like I did at her age, raw, fierce, unguarded, that I forget how to breathe for a second. Mom, she chokes out, her voice breaking. Uncle Robert steps aside, and I move toward her, my arms wrapping tightly around her shoulders. She clings to me, sobbing into my chest, and I stroke her hair, whispering, I'm here. I've got you. And for the first time in years, I realize the truth. My mother was right. It really isn't too late to begin again. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I turn away, trying to steady my breath, trying not to let the truth crash over me all at once. I feel Emily's gaze on me, waiting, wanting me to say something, anything. She didn't understand. I murmur, though the words sound hollow even to my own ears. Emily scoffs softly, shaking her head.
No, Mom.
You didn't want to understand. She's not wrong. How many years have I made excuses for Tom? How many times have I ignored the cold indifference, the dismissive sighs, the way he always put himself first? It wasn't a marriage. It was an arrangement I'd accepted out of habit and fear of what came next. Uncle Robert returns then, clearing his throat, giving us all a chance to collect ourselves. The paperwork's done, he says softly. You don't need to worry about anything right now, Vanessa. Thank you, I whisper, and I mean it. Emily steps closer, her face tight with determination. Mom, what are you going to do? What do you mean? I ask, though I know exactly what she's talking about. You can't go back to him, she says firmly. Not after this. Not after everything. Her words feel like an ultimatum, and for once, I don't have the energy to argue or deflect. My daughter, my fiercely honest, stubborn daughter, is right. Aunt Margaret steps in, her voice soft but steady. Helen told me once that strength doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes it means knowing when to walk away. I swallow hard, my throat tight. My mother's voice echoes in my head. You deserve better, Vanessa. Maybe she was right. I look at Emily, her eyes bright with hope and pain, and I realize that I can't keep living this half-life anymore. I've been clinging to a crumbling foundation for too long, afraid of what might happen if I let go. But what's worse, facing the unknown, or continuing to shrink into someone I don't even recognize? I don't know what's next, I admit, my voice trembling. But you're right. I can't go back to him. Not this time. A tear slips down Emily's cheek, but she smiles, a small, shaky smile that tells me she believes me. Uncle Robert places a reassuring hand on my shoulder. You'll figure it out, Vanessa. And you won't be alone. I nod, finally letting the tears fall. For the first time in years, I feel a flicker of something I thought I'd lost. Hope. As we leave the hospital together, the weight of my mother's absence settles heavily on my heart. But in that weight, there's also clarity. She saw me when I couldn't see myself, when I didn't want to. And now, standing here with my daughter and my family by my side, I know what I need to do. It's not too late to start over. For her. For Emily. For me. Uncle Robert adds quietly, the truth of their words settles over me like ash. 23 years of making excuses, of smoothing things over, of pretending Tom's indifference was just his way. 23 years of watching my mother's concerned looks, of fielding her gentle suggestions about therapy or separation. My phone buzzes again. Another message from Tom. Should I wait dinner for you? Emily makes that sound again. This time, it's pure disgust. She grabs my phone and types furiously before I can stop her. Emily, don't. Too late, she says, handing the phone back with a defiant lift of her chin. Someone needed to say it. I look down at the screen, her words staring back at me. Mom's mother just died. Don't wait up. Better yet, don't wait at all. The three dots appear immediately. Tom is typing. Then they vanish. Appear. Disappear again. Finally, a single response. We'll discuss this attitude when you get home. Emily's voice rises with anger. Discuss what? That his wife's mother died, and he couldn't be bothered to show up? That he cares more about what he's eating for dinner than about you? Lower your voice, sweetheart, Aunt Margaret murmurs, but I can see the flicker of approval in her eyes. A nurse appears, her expression soft and professional, a clipboard in her hands. Mrs. Mitchell? We need to discuss arrangements. The word arrangements feels like a physical blow to my chest. My mother is gone. My husband is worried about takeout. The absurdity of it all is almost laughable, almost. I'll help, Emily says, her voice steady as she takes my arm. We don't need him for this. I turn to look at my daughter, this strong, defiant young woman who, in this moment, reminds me so much of my mother. I nod, feeling something shift inside me. We don't need him. Maybe we never did. My mother's final words echo in my mind, clear and unwavering. It's never too late to start over, sweetheart. Never too late to demand more. I squeeze Emily's hand, the weight of grief and anger transforming into something sharper. Something resolute. Tom wants to discuss attitudes. Fine. When I get home, we'll discuss plenty, starting with divorce papers. It's never too late to start over. My mother knew it, and now so do I. I look up at Uncle Robert, my voice cold and steady despite the storm raging inside me. I'm done playing his game. Uncle Robert leans back, assessing me like he's seeing me clearly for the first time. Good. But we need to be smart about this, Vanessa. Tom's in deep, and if he's desperate, he'll fight tooth and nail to keep the truth buried. I nod, feeling my jaw tighten. Then let's start digging. The next few hours blur together. Uncle Robert and I pull up every document, every financial record tied to Tom. With each new discovery, my anger burns hotter. He's drained accounts, forged signatures, and covered his tracks so thoroughly it's a wonder anyone noticed until now. You'll need to freeze the remaining assets immediately, Uncle Robert says. We'll file an injunction to prevent him from moving any more money. Sarah will help us press charges once we have everything documented. My phone buzzes again, another message from Tom. Vanessa, where the hell are you? We have guests tonight. Stop ignoring me. I toss the phone onto Uncle Robert's desk. He thinks I'm still the same woman who's been putting up with his crap for years. Uncle Robert raises an eyebrow. Are you? I meet his gaze, fire in my eyes. Not anymore. The Petersons are already sipping wine in our dining room when I walk through the door later that evening. Tom stands by the table, his hand resting on the back of a chair, mid-laugh at something Mr. Peterson has said. The sight of him, the picture of charm, deceit disguised as confidence, nearly makes my blood boil. Vanessa, he says smoothly, his smile dropping when he sees the look on my face. Where have you been? You're late. I don't answer. Instead, I walk straight to the bar cart and pour myself a glass of water, the silence in the room thick and uncomfortable. Tom clears his throat, his polished facade slipping. Vanessa, you're being rude. Rude? I nearly laugh out loud. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt something important? Like, say, a little online poker session? Or maybe another wire transfer? The room goes still. Tom's face pales, and for the first time, I see a flicker of panic in his eyes. What are you talking about? His voice sharpens, but I can hear the strain underneath. I take a sip of water, deliberately slow. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Tom. I turn to the Petersons, who look frozen in place. Apologies for the scene, but I think it's time for our guests to leave. Tom and I have some business to discuss. Tom steps forward, his voice low and threatening. What the hell are you doing, Vanessa? I meet his glare, unflinching. Exposing you. You're making a fool of yourself.
No, Tom.
You've done that for both of us.
You stole from me.
From my mother. From our family. Mrs. Peterson rises hastily, murmuring something about needing to leave, dragging her husband behind her. Tom doesn't even notice. They're irrelevant now, his focus solely on me. You don't know what you're talking about, he hisses, his voice like a cornered animal. Oh, I know everything. Uncle Robert's been helping me untangle your mess all day. The gambling. The stolen money. The life insurance policy you let lapse so you could siphon funds from my mother.
I've got the bank statements.
The transfers. All of it. For a split second, I see the panic flare again before he tamps it down with anger. You're bluffing. I smile, cold and triumphant. Try me. His face contorts with rage. You're ruining everything. Do you know how hard I've worked to keep us afloat? To secure this deal? And you're throwing it all away because you can't control your emotions. No, Tom. I snap, my voice sharp as glass. You threw it all away the moment you decided to betray me and steal from my family. I pull my phone out of my pocket and open a recording app. Oh, and by the way, Uncle Robert and I have been documenting everything. This conversation included. So keep talking if you want to add a few more crimes to your rap sheet. Tom freezes, his eyes widening. You wouldn't. I stare him down, unblinking. I already have. He doesn't speak. For the first time in years, Tom Mitchell, Mr. Always in Control, looks utterly defeated. I grab my bag, slinging it over my shoulder. Enjoy your evening, Tom. Sarah Chan, our lawyer, will be serving you papers tomorrow. Consider this the beginning of the end. As I turn and walk out of the house, I feel lighter than I have in years. I may have spent decades smoothing things over, hiding my pain for the sake of appearances. But those days are gone. Tom underestimated me. He mistook my silence for weakness. But now, I'm done being silent. I'm done being the woman he thought he could manipulate. It's time for him to face the consequences. And I'll make sure he does. Sandra gives me a knowing smile. One that's too sharp to be comforting. How did I get through it? Quietly. Methodically. I played the game better than he did. She gestures toward the dining room with a tilt of her head. Men like Tom think they're untouchable. They rely on us to be blind, loyal, and silent. But they never see it coming when we decide to fight back. Her words hit me like a shockwave, a lifeline wrapped in steel. I wipe at my eyes quickly, unwilling to let her see me falter. How did you win? I ask softly, my voice almost a whisper. Sandra shrugs as if the answer is obvious. I stopped pretending, but only when the time was right. I gathered everything. Every receipt, every account, every secret. Then I walked away with my head held high and his world in ashes. She places a comforting hand on my shoulder. You don't need to fight loudly to win, Vanessa. You just need to fight smart. The words echo in my mind, and for the first time in a long while, I feel a flicker of strength, of clarity. I straighten up, smoothing my skirt as I reach for the tiramisu tray. Thank you, I say, my voice steady now. I think I needed to hear that. Sandra steps back, her sharp smile returning. Don't thank me yet. But when the dust settles, let's grab coffee. I know a fantastic lawyer for when you're ready to make your move. I nod, feeling a strange sense of camaraderie with this woman I barely know. I'll keep that in mind. Good. She turns and leaves, her heels clicking softly against the tile as she disappears into the dining room. I take a deep breath, collecting myself, and follow with the tray of desserts. Back at the table, Tom flashes me his signature smile, the one I used to find charming. Now it feels like nails on a chalkboard. Everything okay, darling? Perfect, I reply smoothly, lowering the tray onto the table. Tiramisu, everyone? Sandra meets my gaze from across the table, a subtle nod of approval in her expression. I serve the dessert with practiced grace, My every move deliberate, measured. The room feels different now, like I'm no longer a pawn on Tom's chessboard. As the Petersons chat about investments and vacations, I let Tom's voice wash over me, his laugh blending into the background. He doesn't know.
Not yet.
He doesn't know I've already started planning his downfall. He doesn't know that the woman he underestimated for 23 years has learned to play his game, and that I'll beat him at it.
Quietly.
Methodically. And when the time is right, I'll leave him standing in the ruins of the empire he thought he controlled. As Sanders said, men like Tom never see it coming. And this time, neither will he. Sarah looks at me, her gaze sharp.
He knows we're on to him, she says.
He's getting ready to run. Uncle Robert nods. We don't have much time. We need to freeze the remaining assets immediately. I swallow hard, my heart pounding. What do I do now? Sarah's voice is calm but firm, a steady anchor in this storm. You go home, Vanessa. You act like nothing has changed. Let him think he's still in control until we finalize the freeze on his accounts and assets. The second mortgage, the forged documents, this is all evidence that will bury him in court. You'll come out on top, but you need to keep playing your part for just a little longer. My hands clench around my phone as I stare at Emily's text again. The thought of Tom disappearing, of him dragging what's left of our life, and my children, down with him fuels the fire burning in my chest. He's not going anywhere, I say, my voice low but resolute. Sarah and Uncle Robert exchange a look of approval.
Good, Sarah says.
We'll handle the legal side. You just keep him in place. The house is eerily quiet when I get back, save for the faint sound of drawers sliding open and shut upstairs. I kick off my shoes, setting my keys down deliberately on the counter, just loud enough for him to hear. Tom, I call out, my tone light and controlled. I'm home. The noises stop.
Moment latte.
Tom appears at the top of the stairs, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He looks startled, though he tries to hide it with a strained smile. Vanessa, didn't expect you back so soon. Clearly, I reply, glancing pointedly at the bag. Going somewhere? He falters. Work trip. Emergency meeting. Nothing you'd understand. I smile sweetly, folding my arms.
Oh.
I understand more than you think, Tom. He stiffens. What does that mean? It means I know about the second mortgage, the life insurance, the gambling, and the other women. The blood drains from his face. You're not done, I interrupt, stepping closer. I also know the SEC is breathing down your neck. Your company? It's about to implode.
And you?
You're running scared. You don't know what you're talking about, he snaps, his voice shaking. Don't I? I tilt my head, watching him like he's already defeated prey. You've underestimated me for years, Tom. But here's the thing. While you've been busy digging your own grave, I've been preparing to bury you in it. His eyes dart toward the front door, calculating his next move. You can't prove anything. Actually, I can. I pull my phone from my pocket, flipping the screen toward him. Meet Sarah Chin, the best divorce attorney in the state. She's already building a case against you, and Uncle Robert's been combing through every last fraudulent document you signed in my name. Tom's bravado cracks completely, his shoulders slumping. You wouldn't do this to me, he mutters, more to himself than to me. Watch me, I say, my voice a razor's edge. You've stolen from me, from my mother, and from our children. You thought I'd just sit back and let you destroy everything? You thought wrong. He drops the duffel bag on the floor, his face contorting with anger. This isn't over, Vanessa. I smile, ice cold and unshaken. Oh, it's over, Tom. You just don't know it yet. Upstairs, I lock the bedroom door and sink onto the edge of the bed, letting out the breath I've been holding. My phone buzzes, Sarah's name lighting up the screen. The accounts are frozen, she says simply. He won't be able to access a cent. Good. I reply, my voice steady. Let him squirm. As I hang up, I hear Tom pacing downstairs, cursing under his breath. For the first time in years, I feel something I haven't felt in this house for a long time, control. Mom was right. It's never too late to start over. And this time, I'm starting over without Tom. He built this house on lies, but I'll be the one who walks away from it, stronger, wiser, and ready to rebuild. And as for Tom, well, he can sit in the ruins of the life he destroyed. Alone. My hands tremble as I end the call with Tom. I turn to Sarah and Uncle Robert, my voice barely steady. He knows the jewelry is in the safety deposit box. If we don't get there first, he'll do whatever he can to get his hands on it. Sarah stands, her expression hard and focused. Then we get there first. If Tom's desperate enough to make this move, he's spiraling. That makes him dangerous and sloppy. Uncle Robert grabs his coat. Vanessa, we'll take my car. I know the bank manager personally. If Tom tries anything, we'll have them stall him. The drive to First National feels like it takes hours instead of minutes. Sarah keeps her phone pressed to her ear, coordinating with her contacts. The faint sound of a printer whirring fills the background, evidence being finalized. We're locking everything down, she says, clicking off the call. But Tom's going to sense it any moment now. Be ready for him to panic. I stare out the window, the city blurring past. My mother's voice echoes in my mind. It's never too late to protect yourself, sweetheart. She knew, somehow she always knew. At the bank, Uncle Robert leads the way, his presence exuding calm authority. Helen Mitchell's safety deposit box, please, he says to the receptionist, sliding his ID across the counter. The manager appears moments later, a balding man in a crisp suit. Mrs. Mitchell. I'm so sorry about your loss, he says, his tone warm and professional. We were expecting you. The box is ready for you in the private room. Thank you, I say, my voice strained. As we follow him through the glass doors into the vault area, Sarah whispers, be prepared. Tom might already be on his way. I nod, gripping my purse tightly. My heart thunders in my chest as the manager opens the door to the private viewing room. Inside, the safety deposit box sits on the table, its metal surface dull under the fluorescent lights. I step forward, my hands shaking as I unlock it with the key my mother gave me. Whatever she left, it's there, Uncle Robert says softly. I pull open the box. The first layer is what I expect, velvet pouches filled with antique necklaces, rings, and earrings passed down for generations. My mother's legacy. But underneath the pouches, tucked into the back corner, I find an envelope with my name scrawled in my mother's handwriting. I freeze. What is it? Sarah asks. I carefully open the envelope. Inside is a handwritten letter and a USB drive. Sweetheart, if you're reading this, then I was right to prepare. Tom is not the man he pretends to be. I've been watching and I've seen the signs. This drive contains records, proof of every secret account, every shady transaction, and every theft. Protect yourself, Vanessa. Use this to end it. I love you. Always. Mom. Tears blur my vision as I fold the letter carefully, tucking it back into the envelope. I hold up the USB drive, my hand shaking. Sarah's eyes widen as she takes it. This could seal his fate. It's exactly what we need. Before I can respond, the vault door slams open. Tom storms in, his face red with fury. Vanessa, what the hell are you doing here? Uncle Robert steps in front of me,
his voice steady.
You're not supposed to be back here, Tom. You're not on the account. Tom ignores him, his eyes locked on me. Give me the box, Vanessa.
Now.
My heart pounds, but I square my shoulders, meeting his glare head-on. This box doesn't belong to you. You don't understand, he growls, stepping closer. I need what's in there. Sarah steps forward, slipping the USB drive into her pocket. Whatever you think you're getting, it's over, Tom. You're done. Stay out of this. Tom snarls, turning on her. Vanessa, listen to me. Do you really want to destroy our family over? You already destroyed it. I snap, cutting him off. My voice shakes with emotion, but I don't back down. This ends now, Tom. 2 security guards appear behind him, summoned by the commotion. Sir, we're going to have to ask you to leave. Tom whirls around, his panic clear. You can't do this. You're making a huge mistake. No, I say quietly. The mistake was trusting you for 23 years. As the guards escort Tom from the room, he shouts over his shoulder, his voice frantic. This isn't over, Vanessa. I look at Sarah, who pulls the USB drive from her pocket, holding it up like a trophy. Oh, it's over, she says, her voice cool and confident. And we'll make sure of it. Outside the bank, I take a deep breath, the cold air clearing my head. Uncle Robert puts a reassuring hand on my shoulder. Your mother protected you, Vanessa, he says softly. And now you're protecting yourself. I nod, clutching the envelope tightly. She gave me the strength to do this. Sarah grins, the USB drive glinting in her hand. Let's take this to court. It's time to finish this. For the first time in years, I feel in control of my life. Tom underestimated me, and now, with my mother's final gift, I'll make sure he pays for every betrayal. It's not too late to start over. Mom was right, and this time, I'm starting over on my terms. How much did it cost to betray everything, Tom? I ask, my voice low and trembling. Tom's grip on the necklace tightens, his knuckles pale. It's not betrayal. It's survival. You don't understand how much pressure I've been under. I did all of this for us. For you. For Emily. Stop lying, I snap. You didn't do it for us. You did it for yourself. For your greed. Your pride. And now you want to run, like the coward you are. Tom's face contorts with anger. You don't know what it's like, Vanessa. The pressure to maintain everything to keep up appearances. Everyone depends on me. I was just trying to fix things. Fix things. I laugh bitterly, stepping closer. You destroyed everything. You gambled away our money, betrayed our family, and tried to steal what little my mother left behind. Tom stares at me, his desperation surfacing like cracks in shattered glass. We could start over. You and me, Vanessa.
No one needs to know about this.
We leave the house, leave the past behind. I can fix it this time. I swear. I glance down at the pearl necklace in his trembling hand. My mother's pearls, her legacy, reduced to a bargaining chip. You're wrong, Tom. I'm not starting over with you. I'm starting over without you. I pull my phone from my pocket, holding it up to show the recording app still running. His eyes widen. Vanessa. Every word I say, my voice steady, recorded. Your confessions. Your fraud.
Your theft.
You always thought you were the smartest one in the room, didn't you? Turns out you were just sloppy and selfish. His face darkens, the rage bubbling beneath the surface, now undeniable. You'll regret this, Vanessa. No, I say, my resolve hardening. You will. Before he can respond, a loud knock echoes through the house, followed by the unmistakable voices of police officers. Tom's eyes dart to the window, then to me, pure panic etched across his face. You called them, he breathes. I didn't, I reply calmly, stepping back. But I knew they'd find you. The front door bursts open, and the sound of heavy boots reverberates through the hall. Tom swears under his breath, dropping the necklace, as two officers storm into the study. Tom Mitchell, one officer says firmly. You're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and theft. Hands where we can see them. Tom turns to me, his expression a twisted mix of betrayal and disbelief. Vanessa, don't do this. Think of Emily. I say coldly. The officers cuff his wrists, reading him his rights as they lead him out. He looks back once, his eyes pleading, but I don't flinch. I watch him go, my mother's pearls lying abandoned on the floor. In the silence that follows, I kneel to pick up the necklace, clutching it tightly in my palm. It's heavier than I remember, like it's absorbed the weight of everything that's happened. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Emily. I'm safe at Uncle Robert's. Are you okay? I take a deep breath, feeling the ghost of my mother's hand on my shoulder, her voice whispering in my ear. You're stronger than you know. I type back. I'm okay now, sweetheart. We're going to be okay. The next day, I meet Sarah and Uncle Robert in Sarah's office. A stack of documents sits between us, Tom's crimes laid out like a ledger of his failures. This is just the beginning, Sarah says, flipping through the evidence. The court will seize his assets to repay the debts. What's left of the money will go to you and Emily. And what about the house? I ask. It's yours, Uncle Robert says firmly. Tom forged documents, but we've already submitted proof. The judge will rule in your favor. I nod, a sense of closure settling over me. The house, the money, none of it matters as much as the truth. Tom's lies have unraveled, and I've survived it all. That evening, Emily and I sit on the back porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. She leans her head on my shoulder, the same way she used to when she was little. I'm proud of you, Mom, she says softly. Grandma would be too. I smile, tears pricking at my eyes. I hope so. You're really starting over, aren't you? Yes, I whisper, staring at the fading light. And this time, it's on my terms. I hold my mother's pearls in my hand, the cool weight of them grounding me in this new reality. Tom is gone. The lies are over. It's never too late to start again, Mom was right. And for the first time in years, I feel free. The morning feels lighter than it has in years. I take my place at the table, Emily passing me a mug of coffee, her face lit with quiet joy. For the first time, I let myself breathe, truly, deeply breathe. Mom's garden blooms beyond the window, wild roses climbing their trellis, as if reaching for the sky. They remind me of her strength, her resilience. She knew life was about growth, about turning loss into something beautiful. The house, once a place where silence and tension lived, is alive again. Laughter, shared plans, and the hum of connection fill the spaces Tom's betrayal left empty. Aunt Margaret nudges a plate of pancakes toward me. Vanessa, don't forget to eat. You need your strength. Mom's going to need her energy when we take this fight to the bigger players, Emily adds, a spark of determination in her eyes. I smile, feeling pride swell in my chest. My daughter, her grandmother's steel, her father's wit, but none of his greed. She's ready to fight for justice, and she has the right people beside her to make sure no one else gets hurt like we did. You've grown into an incredible woman, I say softly, and Emily smiles, the walls between us finally gone. Uncle Robert clears his throat, holding up a file. I'll set up a meeting with the SEC this week. Michael's findings change everything. Michael grins as he flips through the evidence. We've got a solid trail of breadcrumbs. The real players won't get away with this. I sip my coffee, the bitterness perfectly balanced by cream and sugar, much like life itself. Let's finish what Tom started on our terms. Outside, the garden carries on, its blooms unbothered by yesterday's storms. Mom always told me that growth comes after the hardest seasons. She was right. This is what healing looks like. Not revenge, not bitterness, but family gathered around the table, working together, protecting what matters, growing into something stronger. And as I look at Emily, at Aunt Margaret, Uncle Robert, and Michael, I know we're already there. I smile faintly, picturing Mom kneeling in her garden, dirt on her hands, a satisfied look on her face, as she planted something new. You can't stop growth, she'd say, pushing a stubborn root into place. You just need the right soil, the right care, and patience. Tom can sit in his concrete cell, surrounded by walls of his own making. He chose greed and manipulation, thinking it would make him untouchable. But while he's trapped in his own decay, I'm here, free, flourishing. True revenge isn't about tearing someone down. It's about building yourself up, becoming something they never believed you could. It's about planting yourself in the ashes of what they destroyed and growing back stronger. Taller, impossible to ignore. Mom knew that. She lived it, tended it with care. I pour myself another cup of coffee, the sun now spilling through the window, casting warmth across the kitchen.
Outside.
Her garden blooms wildly, roses and marigolds swaying gently in the breeze. They've weathered storms. They've grown deeper roots. So have I. Mom always did give the best gardening advice.